Welcome back to Right Answers Mostly, a podcast on what you didn't learn in history class, but you really wanted to. I'm Claire Donald.
And I'm Tess Bellomo.
Now, Rammies, if you've been with us for a while, you know that we used to have a cocktail or have a joint every single episode, and some of you missed that. Let me tell you, having 2 drinks at 11 a.m. can be startling.
Yeah, we learned to take a little easier with time, with
When you're
maturity.
maturity, when you're recording 3 times a week, you just can't always do that. But this episode, I actually don't have a drink. But Tess and I were like, if there were any episodes that we were going to need a stiff drink at the end, it would probably be this one.
Well, we're having a drink tonight in a little bit, so you know that we'll still be talking about our work even when we are together in a social setting.
Well, of course, because if you aren't with your girlfriends and talking about dismantling the patriarchy and the injustice of the world, what are you doing?
What do you even talk about? Like, truly.
Literally, what do you talk about? So, you guys, today we are talking about the Anita Hill trial. Tess, what do you know about this?
I wish I knew more, so thank God for right answers mostly.
Exactly.
But I do know that this was like a very unjust trial and something that happened to Anita Hill with all of these white men against her and no one believing her.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know the details of it.
I didn't as well. We are both babies of the 90s, but this was before our time, our cognitive time.
I remember the Monica Lewinsky stuff so much clearer and I feel like I learned about Anita Hill like later on, probably like in high school.
This is why we have right answers mostly now to learn, because if you don't learn from history, it just keeps on repeating itself. And boy, don't we see that.
And hasn't it?
And hasn't it?
Hasn't it? Yeah, so I'm so excited just to learn more about this and get really upset.
Yeah, well, here we go. And with all that being said, Rammies, this whole episode is a discussion about sexual harassment. So if that's not something that you feel comfortable listening to today, we totally understand, and we will catch you next week. Okay, Tess, the Anita Hill hearing. So, Anita Hill made history in 1991 when she testified about the sexual harassment she said she had experienced while she was an aide to Clarence Thomas, a Supreme Court nominee who had been her supervisor at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Okay, let's give a little backstory on who Anita is. So, Anita Faye Hill was born on July 30th, 1956. So, what we have is a Leo queen.
Oh, okay. We love our Leo queens.
We really do. She was born into a family of farmers in Lone Tree, Oklahoma. And Tess, she is the youngest of 13 children.
Hey.
I can't 13. I cannot imagine. And her family seems very close.
What possesses you to do something like that?
I don't know. I just don't know.
With love and light. It's just not for me, but okay.
Can't imagine. But so she's the youngest of 13. Being the youngest of 13, Anita got to see some of her siblings start out in segregated schools while she went into integration. So she said that she saw some of the segregation from the past and the integration of the future.
That is so interesting. God, talk about little sibling energy to its fullest. Like, we think we have it.
Youngest of 13.
Do you think some of her siblings like resented her in a way of like so much life had changed, like different circumstances, or no?
No, because I think that her family, they were all experiencing the same thing, because even with integrated schools, it's not like everything is fine
Then it
and
just goes
and
away.
perfect. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so that's what she was saying, that her parents always made sure that her and her siblings were aware that they were going to experience the world differently than a lot of other people. Like, they would not be allowed to experience it freely. And it was this interesting dance that they did of protecting their kids, but having like super high expectations. Her mom would tell her, you've got to be twice as good to get half as much.
Well, that is true.
Yeah. And my God,
Unfortunately. Yeah.
was Anita Hill twice as good? So Tess, she graduated high school in 1973, and she was the class valedictorian.
Hot.
She graduated with honors from Oklahoma State University in 1977, and then she earned her law degree from Yale Law School in 1980.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I need to be twice as good. No problem.
Wow. Okay. I
Yeah.
always I wonder when Yale like started taking women and then like even Black women.
Well, I think Harvard was the 70s or something. It was something crazy, you guys, that we've talked about, where
Yes.
it became co-ed.
Yeah. A lot later than you would like it to be.
Yeah,
So.
ain't that the truth. So she is a smart cookie. In 1980, she began her law career in Washington, D.C., and she started working at a law firm in 1981. And then she became attorney advisor to Clarence Thomas, who was the assistant secretary of the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. Clarence Thomas then became the chairman of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which we will now call EEOC, in 1982. And Anita goes on to be his assistant there. And Tess, the big irony of all of this is that the job of the EEOC is to make sure that workplaces are fair and free from discrimination or harassment.
Was just gonna say, this is already feeling a bit, ironic
You could say that, Tess.
in a
You could say
really
that.
disgusting way, yeah.
So, this is what Anita's experience was working with Clarence Thomas. He would come in and he would talk about his porn habits. Yeah,
Oh, we're just okay, okay.
right out the gate. So,
Right out the gate.
Anita Hill said, quote, he spoke about such matters as women having sex with animals and films showing group sex or rape scenes. She said, adding that on several occasions, Thomas graphically describes his own sexual prowess and the details of his anatomy. There was a character in these pornos that he watched called Long Dong Silver.
Oh.
Yeah,
Was she the only woman in the office?
she was not. She was not the only woman with this experience.
That right. No,
Of course.
color me shocked. Yeah, okay. Well, at least there was other women. I mean, God, how lonely would it be if she was the only one?
I can't. But I think it's also, even if you're not, it's such a lonely experience because, again, this is the 80s that you're like, how do we even talk to each other about this?
Yeah, no, it's very bad both ways. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It was such a different time too.
So I think that's also something that we have to realize and that we'll see so much going through this is like so much. I mean, still very bad, but so much changed after Me Too. And there was such a better understanding of sexual harassment and assault after Me Too.
Yes, and, like, what was acceptable with your coworkers and employers. Like,
Right.
guys, this was 10 years ago we learned that.
Yeah. Which is
Like, literally.
crazy that 2016 was 10 years ago, but it's neither
Hard
here nor there.
hard to think about, but okay, so this man was disgusting.
Yeah. So he would refer to the size of his penis being larger than most. And Tess, this is probably one of the most famous instances or infamous instances from this whole thing is that there was a time in which Clarence Thomas examined a can of Coke on his desk and asked, who's put a pubic hair on my Coke?
Wait, what? Oh, like, he put one of his on there?
I don't think it's still kind of unclear what that even was. I think it probably was just a hair on a Coke, and then he's being that creepy guy that's like, "Why are you going there?"
That's, yeah, really a visual I didn't wanna think about.
So this pubic hair on the Coke can becomes like the cigar of the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Yeah, I was just thinking it,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
of
the
course.
the '90s. Wow, what a time.
Or like the blue dress, but it like becomes that thing
That, like, everyone's gonna try to examine and talk about and make her feel stupid.
and joke about. Yeah,
Mhm.
embarrass her even though he's the one that said that.
Right, she had nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. He also repeatedly asked her out, even after she said no and after she declined his request. He used work situations to discuss sexual subjects and push advances. And it left her, which, of course, most women feel that if I don't just endure this, then my job and my career is at jeopardy. He also talked about sex with his wife.
How old is this man?
He probably was. That's a good question.
Like,
He was younger. Like I would say he was in his mid to late 30s or early 40s.
okay, in my head, he's, like, 85.
No, he's not. He's not.
Okay.
He is like probably late 30s or early 40s.
And she's, like, late 20s at this point?
At this point, she is mid 20s.
Got it. Okay.
Early to mid 20s. So she worked as his assistant in 1982 and then she left the job a year later in 1983. When she leaves this job, she never reported the harassment, but she did tell people in her life about it and she wrote about it in her diary, but that was it. So then she goes on to become a law professor in Oklahoma and she's just living her life, has moved on. 8 years after working with Clarence Thomas, in 1991, President George H.W. Bush nominated Clarence Thomas to replace retiring Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. So He's nominated. Senate hearings on his confirmation were initially completed. And he's only been a judge, by the way, for 1 year, which is like no experience to be a Supreme Court justice. Like, that's so rookie material.
Yeah.
So his supporters really campaigned on his good character. Like, they're like, we know he's new, but he's such a good guy.
Who were, like, his supporters? Like, what was that demographic?
Republican senators.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted a Republican judge and
They're like, "This is the guy you wanna grab a beer with. This is the guy."
100%, which I'm like, that's already a red flag.
Yeah, that's not who we should have on our Supreme Court.
Well, Tess, again, such a good thing to keep in mind. Someone might be your pal, but that doesn't mean that they're Supreme Court judge material.
Literally, or you might think someone's funny or iconic. They shouldn't be the president.
Yeah, Tess, exactly.
Right? We can all do a better job of, compartmentalizing.
I think you're exactly right. So he's basically confirmed at this point. Like, it's not a done deal, but it basically is. Now, the thing with the Anita Hill hearings is that a lot of people think that she just came forward and was like, hey, 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 watch out for this guy, which would have been a brave and totally acceptable and encouraged thing to do. That's not how it happened, though.
Well, I'm sure people were like, "See how pushy she is and see how, like, annoying, like, it's so intense," is probably the narrative, right?
Well, also, it's like, oh, she came forward with her story. She must want to be famous.
God.
But Tess, that's not even what happened. So when someone is nominated to be a Supreme Court justice, obviously there's going to be some background checks on them. And so the FBI was doing a background check on him at this time. They were interviewing old colleagues. So they interview Anita Hill. And when you are being interviewed by the FBI, it is illegal to lie. And so they ask, what was your working relationship like with Clarence Thomas? And so she was like, okay, I would like a chance to do my statement in my own words because this is my chance to tell the truth. This man is about to be in one of the highest positions of power. So she's like, I am going to take some time and write an official statement and my thoughts for you. And she said that until she wrote that letter, she hadn't really allowed herself to sit and put together all of the details of what had happened and how awful and painful it was for her to leave the work that she loved in order to escape this man.
Mm.
So she sends in a statement to the FBI, Tess, believing it would be fully confidential. And in doing so, then the senators could take her story into account. And she also suspected that there would be a lot of other women that they would need to interview and fully investigate and not just rely on her statement.
She's like, "How much time do you guys have?"
Yeah, literally.
Like, let's not rush this.
So the FBI interviews Anita, they get her statement, and they prepare a report that was sent to the Senate Judiciary Committee. She's under the impression it's all going to be confidential.
Doesn't it have to be, though?
Well, Tess, someone leaked the details of her allegations to the press.
Of course. Of course.
Yep. So someone in the Senate Judiciary Committee leaks it to the press. It gets leaked to Newsday or Newsweekly and NPR. And the leak is what led it to become public. And so now the Senate is like, fuck, well, now we have to open this case again.
Oh, interesting. Who do you think leaked it?
I would guess someone, a Democratic senator.
Right, of being right, because that would have to be the intention of, like, let's get fired up.
Right. And it's just like, on one hand, yes. And then on the other hand, now this woman's very private story that she intended to be private is super public. And not only that, she is now subpoenaed to go speak in Washington and have a hearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
God, this is really just a lesson in, like, do not idolize your politicians, because even Democrats, like, oh, like, we identify as Democrats, we support they're still gonna fuck over a woman in this case just to get what they want.
E- Exactly, Tess. And that's also such a great point that we will talk about later. It's not like, oh, wow, this happened to this woman. Like, we need to make sure that she finds justice. It's, oh, now we can use this as leverage to get what we want.
Exactly, that's always how it's gonna be in politics at the end of the day. Like,
Exactly.
do not idolize these people.
And that's something I've learned from Ram that has been a tough pill to swallow.
This is truly something I feel like we've even really had to, like, talk about in the past couple years, kind of since doing our Monica Lewinsky episode.
It's, it's tough, but it's like that's growth. And it's also what I just wish that so many people in this country and these politicians would do if I'm not tied to this party.
It's better to be in that space.
100%.
Like that, just be like, they all suck, but this is better. This is
Exactly.
the better one.
Exactly. So it's leaked and like it was also not only the senators that were like, fuck, we got to do this. It was like public pressure from specifically women who hear about this. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. But it's not like, not everyone was feeling that way because one of the reasons why Anita Hill, she becomes so divisive, as we see with so many people when victims comes forward with their stories.
Well, I'm sure even women, some women were like, who cares? Let's not run this story.
Well, a lot of the women were like, sweetheart, that's what, especially with the details of her harassment, a lot of women were like, sweetheart, that's what my boss does. Like, that is something of being a woman in the workplace. I've had to deal with it. Why are you complaining about it now?
Well, this is still what we see today of like that projection, the defensiveness, the jealousy that someone gets to talk about it and you can't. Like, it's so complicated.
Right. Like, I had to endure this. Why was no one there for me? And now all of a sudden they're getting all of this sympathy.
And that's truly what it is when women react this way. Like, it's
I
so disappointing, but that's where it comes from.
completely agree. And then the men were like, well, it's just innocent flirting. Like, what's the problem?
Oh, they're just talking about his dick. Like, we all talk about our dick.
He's like, I thought that her body looked nice. I thought that was a compliment.
Oh, yeah, I'm just trying to make her feel good. Women need to feel good.
Literally, Tess. And not only that, it wasn't until the mid 1970s, specifically around 1975, that the term sexual harassment was coined.
Wow.
So this was not even a word that people were aware of until the mid 70s.
Damn.
So a group of women at Cornell, they were working in Cornell's Human Affairs program when they realized that many women shared similar experiences of being pressured, touched, or demeaned at work, but there wasn't a name for it. So Lynn Farley, a writer and a lecturer, later used the term publicly in a testimony before the New York City Human Rights Commission that same year, helping it gain recognition. And in the
Wow.
1980s, the EEOC, where Clarence Thomas was the head of, defined sexual harassment as a form of sex discrimination.
Was there something called like, was there harassment in the workplace? Or like, was it just like you can go into work and you can say and do whatever the fuck you want to do?
There is like a whole other thing that I think would be a dark episode, but an important episode of like the laws of harassment and sexual harassment and what that looks like for sexual discrimination, because people have fought against that being a law because a lot of men are like, well, women can sexually harass men too. So why is it like based off gender?
Oh my God.
I know.
The
So
sensitivity, your small little egos,
yeah. And it's like, yeah, sure, women can sexually harass men. How often do we see that?
literally.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what the term was or if it was a term or if people are like, that's just the way that the world is.
God, and like so much changed for women in the 70s too. Like that's when women could first get their own credit card about their husband. I feel like the 70s also is when marital rape was explored.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't a thing before. So like we are seeing the changes.
We are seeing the changes and the changes are painful. And as we know, like if something is changing, what is being changed is going to rear its ugly head to fight that.
100%.
They decide to reopen the hearings. Anita Hill was subpoenaed to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 1991. And Anita Hill is not the only one who had this experience with Clarence Thomas. So, four other women actually come forward.
Okay, good.
So we have Sakari Hartnett, who was a special assistant to Clarence Thomas in the mid 80s. She wrote to the committee that at the time, Thomas frequently called her into his office for a meeting, but then talked about his private life with women. She said, quote, if you were young, Black, female, and reasonably attractive, you knew full well you were being inspected and auditioned as a female by him. Women know when there are sexual dimensions to the attention they are receiving, and there was never any doubt about the dimension in Clarence Thomas's office.
You literally know within 2 seconds of how these interactions are going to go at work. Like you can feel that.
And in life, and Tess, I think that's like that statement is so women know when there are sexual dimensions to the attention they are receiving. Women
And
understand it in a way that men never will because they've never experienced that.
but men are going to use that. Be like, well, we can't just say, oh, I felt it because like they need like proof and evidence. And that's why this whole sexual harassment in general is so complicated because it's like, but we fucking know when it's happening, we know. And why would we talk about it and lie about it unless it didn't happen?
At the end of the Anita Hill documentary that I watched, and our sources are linked in the show notes, they had these 14-year-old girls talking about, like, yeah, it makes me really uncomfortable when I'm on the sidewalk and a man drives by in his car and like catcalls me.
I mean, I think weren't we just talking about this? Like, you can kind of remember like like what age you were when you started realizing like men looking at you a certain way, slowing down, saying things to you that felt like uncomfortable and weighted. Like,
Hmm.
it's like probably 12,
Yeah, it's very young and it's very
maybe even a little
disturbing.
younger. Yeah.
So that was Sakari Hartnett's statement. Angela Wright, who had worked for Thomas in the 80s at the EEOC, she claimed he had pressured her to date him, even showing up at her apartment one night unannounced. She also said he asked her the size of her breast and commented on other women's bodies. She claimed that Thomas asked at a seminar, "What size are your breasts?" when commenting on her dress.
Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how like relatable it is.
Yeah. So these women are also called to Washington, just like Anita is, but she's not sure it, or they're not sure if they're going to have to testify like Anita is going to. And so right after all this breaks, Anita does a press conference in Oklahoma, and she said, quote, "I felt that as a citizen, as an individual that had information, that it was my obligation when approached to come forward, and I did that." A reporter then asked, "Mrs. Hill, by coming forward, do you feel that you've become a victim twice?" And Anita responds, I hate to use those kinds of terms. Reliving this experience it's been really bad for me, and I can't even describe. It's bad enough to experience it once. It's an unpleasant issue. It's an ugly issue, and people don't want to deal with it generally and in particular in this case.
Because then if she even admits, like, yeah, this feels like exactly how it felt before. Like, I do feel like a victim twice. Like, how is the public going to react to that? They're gonna
Right.
they're gonna be like, "Oh, okay, you poor little thing, poor baby, go cry." Like, it's so you can't say anything right.
And again, like people don't want to deal with it generally because like we'll see in this case, we were like, well, was it really that bad? You know what I mean? It's like people don't want to look in the face of something that's ugly and be like, no, that is wrong.
Yeah, everyone has their own like standards of what they think is like actual sexual harassment, which is very unfair.
And again, like we were saying, the term wasn't even coined until the 70s because so we didn't even have an understanding of sexual harassment like we do now. And even 2016 changed so much of that.
And even right now, people are still trying to figure out what they think is deemed appropriate or not.
Exactly. Exactly. So, of course, the first reaction, people think she's lying. Why would she come forward now? Why didn't she come forward when it happened? But what I appreciated seeing in the doc, her lead attorney was Charles Ogletree. In the documentary, he said, quote, "If you look around Anita Hill, if you look at the photographs of those who volunteered to help her, there were no Black men who supported her publicly. In fact, some tried to persuade her not to testify against Clarence Thomas. You don't do that to a brother." And she said, "Well, look at what happened to me." And her lead attorney was a Black man that he was like, I need to step up to the plate and be there for this woman.
God, I have chills. Well, yeah, because like I bet a lot of people in the Black community were like, "No, but this is great. Like, look what an opportunity this is for us," without knowing how like dangerous this person is. But it's like, oh God, that's so complicated.
Right, but then she's like, "But I'm a Black woman, so why does my experience now why does this trauma that I face have to step aside so this man can serve on the Supreme Court?"
It's truly just another like example of how people hate women
Yeah,
so much. It's like, who the fuck cares about you? We got to get this guy in there. Like, it's so unfair.
it's so unfair. So we're gonna take a little break, and when we come back, we are going to get into the hearings and what happens.
Oh God.
Okay, we are back. So, October 11th through the 13th of 1991, 35-year-old Anita Hill testified publicly under oath and appeared before the all white, all male 14-member Senate Judiciary Committee, chaired by Senator Joe Biden, in nationally televised hearings.
Oh God. I'm gonna get mad.
No, which, Tess, also Ted Kennedy was on this committee.
Oh,
Ram.
did he? Is he gonna disappoint us?
Well, I didn't apparently Ted Kennedy didn't talk that much because everyone was like, you just need to kind of zip it because your reputation is already so bad, anyways.
They're like, "Don't push it, honey. Don't push it."
They're like, why don't you just like sit this one out?
Oh my god.
But again, like, I can't imagine being a woman and having this experience. No one understands sexual harassment in the first place. You think any men are going to feel any sympathy towards her?
Oh my god, the fear
The
of going
fear.
into that day.
They already are there being like, I don't want to believe you.
Like, "I don't wanna be here, and this is stupid, and who's this woman?" Like, I can imagine the conversations they were having.
I know. And Tess on the documentary, it shows when her parents and family walked into the courtroom and they go over and give her a hug. And she said that's when she knew that she had what she needed to get through that day.
No. No, I'm gonna cry.
No, it made me so emotional because it's just she was walking into the lion's den.
Oh my god, it's just so it's so terrifying.
It's
And she's
terrifying.
obviously going in knowing that this is not gonna be that this is now gonna be her forever reputation and, like, legacy, and that no one is gonna believe her. Like, she's not going in and be like, "Maybe I could, like, convince these guys."
But Tess, she's kind of the first to really do this.
That's true, that's true.
And this is before the internet is popping off in the way that we see. So I don't think she even understood how this would come to define her
That's a
legacy.
God, that's a great point.
Like she didn't have any roadmap to this at all.
No, that's so true. Like, I was just saying that from, like, how now we know it to be true, but, like,
Right.
yeah, she hasn't seen any examples of this.
Well, she assumed that everybody on the committee, like it wasn't like that it would be a partisan issue and that it wasn't like, did this or did this not happen to you? That the committee wanted to just to make sure that they were putting someone on who was ultimately qualified of the highest integrity.
Oh my god, because she's like, "Why would it be a thing of, like, people assuming that I'd be lying about this terrible experience that happened to me?"
Exactly. And even hearing the harassment that she's already gone through, I feel like we're so desensitized in society to be like, boys will be boys. And like, yeah, sometimes men are just creepy, which is a problem, A. And then B, it's like, yeah, but this isn't just anyone. This is someone who's going to be on the Supreme Court,
Wow.
right? Like, you need to have the professionalism and decency to be able to hold a seat on the Supreme Court.
Damn.
So on October 11th, Anita Hill testifies, and she is super calm and controlled and poised, which contrasted sharply with the aggressive, doubtful tone of the questioning.
Who was questioning her?
It's all
Like, all of
it's
them?
the hearing, yeah, they've all, like, come with questions to ask her, and they make her repeat so much of the harassment that was already in their statement that they, like, have already been briefed on and knew, and they were doing it to try to trip her up and to make her seem unreliable, and they thought that the more they pressed on these details and the more that she repeated it, it would seem more absurd.
I'm literally squeezing my thumb right now, like, out of just, like
Anger?
that's so fucked up. They're trying to, like, trap her.
No,
They're
they
trying to trick
are.
her.
And the things were absurd that, like, she's having to say in this, like, hearing setting, she's having to talk about pubic hair. She's having to say long dong silver a ton of times. And these men are like, this is so crazy. Like, I just can't even believe that it would happen.
And they're all, like, chuckling that she's saying it, and she's like, "I wasn't the one to fucking say this in the office." He
Yeah,
was.
exactly. Exactly. So Joe Biden opens the hearings. He looks straight at her and he says, quote, it is appropriate to ask Professor Hill anything any member wishes to ask her to plumb the depths of her credibility. Which is, like, such a weird way to word that.
"Fuck you, Biden."
Isn't that such a weird way to word that? Like, instead of being like, "So we can hear the full story," to plumb the depths of her credibility? Right?
Wow.
Oh, but Tess, honestly, like, Biden was the least of what we're about to hear.
But
So,
God, it's one of those things that you're just like, "Biden, like, we really enjoyed him being president, and, like, he saved us from Trump this," and then you're like, "Oh, he's just a man."
I mean, Biden wouldn't even say the word abortion.
That's true. God, there's so much darkness to to everyone.
It's just crazy. And also, like a reminder, Biden was the head of this committee. So he set the tone. He controlled what happened, what didn't happen.
Has he ever talked about it since?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at
Okay.
the end.
Okay.
Yes, he definitely has. So here are some things that were said and asked from these senators. Pennsylvania Senator Arlen Specter said to Anita Hill at one point, quote, you testified this morning in response to Senator Biden that the most embarrassing question involved, and it's not that bad, was about women's large breast. That's a word we use all the time. So that to use literally like that was the most embarrassing thing. Like I talk about large breasts all the time. What?
Should I get your body part, Cheyenne?
Also, I'm like, why are you talking about large breasts all the time? Let's talk about you next, sir.
He's like, sorry, I actually have large breasts and I'm projecting. Okay.
Literally that, Tess. So he started off there, and then he was like, okay, you said that he talked about porn all the time, but did he ever ask you to watch it with him? Anita Hill was like, no. And he was like, Rasha, he never asked you to watch it.
It's so crazy.
It's like why I wish that there was a woman on there to be like, yeah, he didn't ask her to watch it, but he's talking about Long Dong Silverter. Do you think that's appropriate?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And then it was the same kind of thing of you said that he talked about specific sex acts and frequency of sex, and you took that to mean that he wanted to have sex with you, but did he ever ask you to have it? And she was like, no, he didn't ask me to have sex, but he did continually pressure me to go out with him, and he would not accept my explanation as one of being valid.
Nothing would be good enough because even if she was like, yes, he did ask me to have sex with him. And then they'd be like, well, did you?
Yeah.
And then she'd be like, well, no. And they'd be like, well, then it's not a problem because you didn't. It's like there's literally the ceiling is just.
They can find any way to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, I think it's the same senator, this guy fucking sucks. He says, how reliable is your testimony in October of 1991 on events that occurred 8 to 10 years ago? How sure can you be, or how sure can you expect this committee to be on the accuracy of your statement? And she responds, I guess one really does have to understand the nature of sexual harassment. It's very difficult for people to come forward with these kinds of things. And then after that, he says, well, you're not drawing a conclusion that Judge Thomas sexually harassed you. And she responds, yes, I am drawing that conclusion. And before she can even finish, he interrupts her and says, well, then I don't understand.
Don't understand what, honey? Like,
Yeah, and also,
are you an idiot?
that's why we're here, because he sexually harassed me.
Yeah, I knew that the memory thing would be brought up at some point because, I mean, this is just a copy and paste. This is a copy and paste from 2018.
It sure is. And we will talk about 2018.
I know we will, and I am dreading it.
This one is particularly crazy. Senator Howell Heflin said, quote, I've got to determine what your motivations might be. Are you a scorned woman? Do you have a militant attitude relative to civil rights? Do you have a martyr complex? The issue of fantasy has arisen. Are you interested in writing a book?
God, if I were her, I just want to fuck with that. I'd be like, I'm so scorned. And I would love to write a book and then just like see what they say. Just like, yeah.
I am working on a beach read. It has nothing to do with this, but I would like to write a book one day.
Yeah, like I'll send you, you'll be the first to know. I'll send you a copy.
Like, how do you not
just like
explode?
How do you not explode? I'd have to take a Xanax.
No, same. And any emotion that she might show would be used against her.
Then you're going to be crazy.
And then you're going to be, oh, she's hysterical.
Are you a scorned woman? Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? He actually asked her that, and he has this big Southern accent. So he's like, are you a scorned woman? It's so crazy.
That was so good.
Thank you.
She is Southern. She is Southern.
I sounded like Daniel Craig and Knives Out.
Oh, wow. You really did.
I channeled it for a second.
That was crazy.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, he was a dumbass. And then Senator Alan Simpson asked, he says, for the past 103 days, we've heard nothing but how remarkable of a man he is. They have scoured every shred of his life, and nobody except for you has come forward. If what you say this man has done to you occurred, why in God's name would you ever speak to a man like that for the rest of your life?
Where are the other women, though?
That's exactly. That's actually completely inaccurate, which it's like, I would like to say, hey, Joe Biden, why don't you say we've actually got 3 other women waiting in the wings to testify?
Step up to the motherfucking plate.
Because that's just like completely inaccurate. And also the victim blaming.
Oh my God.
And this is what she responds to that. She said that it's a very good question. And she says, I'm not sure I can answer that to your satisfaction. But and she explains how in a professional setting, when you care about your career, it's very hard to come forward with these things because it's suggested that if you do, there will be retaliation. But she does wrap it up by saying it takes an expert in psychology to explain how that can happen, but it can happen because it happened to me.
Can like a psychologist come and testify and, like, help her? Or, like, I guess not because this isn't, like, her like,
Well,
who
I
who could
think
help her?
they talked about now, even with like the Brett Kavanaugh thing, Anita Hill has been very vocal in the way that these investigations are conducted and that they're conducted in a very wrong way that doesn't support the truth.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, another senator was like, if you're sexually harassed, you ought to get mad about it. You ought to do something about it instead of hanging around a long time and then all of a sudden calling up anonymously and saying, oh, I want to complain, which is also not what happened.
She was, like, forced to do it.
She was interviewed and she told the truth and then was subpoenaed.
Oh my god.
Okay, sorry, just gotta we'll do a few more because the victim blaming is just like it's just and I think it's out of control. And again, because of the society that we live in, the patriarchal society, we don't want to believe that these things happen,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and the
Mhm.
way that it goes. But it's important to look at it and understand that it does happen. So this one really made me upset. One of the senators said, here you have the chairman of the EEOC, Clarence Thomas, the nation's chief law enforcement officer of sexual harassment. And here you have a lawyer who is an expert in this field. He's talking about Anita Hill, who later goes on to teach civil rights and has a dedication to making sure women aren't discriminated against. How could you allow this kind of reprehensible conduct to go on right in the headquarters without doing something about it?
It's how can you teach someone so dumb
Yeah.
something like that? Like, it's like to ask yeah.
So why is that on Anita Hill, who that happened to, and not on Clarence Thomas, who was the chairman, who is a chief
She was
executive officer?
his assistant.
And so it's her responsibility to make sure that harassment doesn't happen to her and not the harasser?
He is the leader, he that is she that's her boss,
Yeah, the
but this
victim
is not
blaming.
falling on her, it's like, oh my god, on him, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And now being like, this is your responsibility to protect all women because this happened to you. It's just like so unfair. And then, of course, they pull the thing of, like, just so you know, he's been suffering terribly because of this, and you're putting this man's life and career at jeopardy. Do you realize that?
Is it the oh, he has a family. What are his kids gonna think? Did he have kids?
I actually don't know if he had kids. I was like, I don't even want to look into this beast, but he does have wives. Oh, I
What?
think.
Well,
I mean, it wouldn't be surprised. I
truly.
think he had different wives at different points.
Okay, because like, that was such a thing with Brett Kavanaugh. It was like, "You're doing this to a father."
So it's like,
He's a father.
what about just this woman that this happened to?
Exactly.
And then Tess, it just became this whole hearing became an issue on her character and not the character of the nominee. Like she doesn't have anything to gain from this.
Yeah, I think, "Why am I even here at this point?" Like, I've said everything I like, now you guys use your stupid little heads
Yep.
and put something together.
Yeah. And again, like, why are you questioning her character so much? This is not what this hearing is about. It's about seeing if Clarence Thomas is fit to be on the Supreme Court, not her.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Tess, it's a 9-hour day for her. I
Does she have
can't
to
imagine.
is it multiple days?
It's multiple days. The first day was a 9-hour day for her. And then at 9 p.m., Clarence Thomas takes a stand. And before the senators could even finish their question of, is there anything you would like to say? He interrupts and is visibly angry and emotional.
Does he cry?
He doesn't cry, but he shouts at them.
What does he say?
Oh, Tess, Tess, what does he say? He denies all the allegations and said that the hearing was a travesty and disgusting and that this hearing should never happen in America and that it is a circus and a national disgrace. He then says that this trial was, quote, a high tech lynching for uppity blacks, saying that he was being targeted because he was a conservative black man. And now this hearing becomes an issue about race when they're talking to Clarence Thomas. And all of these white guys all of a sudden go, whoa, 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 we're not going to touch that. We're not going to talk about that.
Wow.
He manipulated that, which, by the way, again, Anita Hill is a black woman.
Right. Wow, I mean, of course he did. He was like, "I know how to get everyone to shut the fuck up."
And he did. He knew
Mhm.
exactly what he was doing.
Mhm.
So It just it enhances like the boys club mentality, especially like with the Republican senators. And the Republican senators are like, we want to put a black judge on the Supreme Court. Like, why are you trying to fight putting a black judge on the Supreme Court?
Right. They're like, this is change. This is progress. Who cares if this little lady's sensitive about stuff? Like, it's crazy.
That's the thing, you guys. It's like, I know there are judges out there. I know there are black judges out there that have not sexually harassed a woman. This
But
man,
this one did.
but this one did. So we need to count the losses and move on and find another one.
Exactly.
My God.
Mm. Mm. Mm-mm.
So the next 2 days, Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas continued to take the stand, as well as a few other witnesses. Thomas said he had considered Hill a friend whom he'd helped at every turn. So when the accusations of harassment came out from her, they were particularly hurtful. And he said, quote, I lost the belief that if I did my best, all would work out.
Oh, shut up. Oh my God. So the other women did come forward.
Well, Tess, the other women who the witnesses that came further, which also, by the way, Clarence Thomas says, I will not provide further detail. It did not happen. And it's like, babe, you're here to provide further details.
Kind of need some detail, honey.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point of one of these things. Yeah.
So the key witnesses who supported Anita Hill's testimony were called, it was a lifelong friend from law school, a former coworker, a lawyer, an ex-boyfriend, and a law professor. They all supported Anita Hill's credibility, confirming she spoke about the harassment at the time years before. Now, you were asking about the other women. They were never called. Joe Biden never called them in to testify. They were all there and willing to testify, but the committee decided not to call one in.
Because they were scared.
So the Republicans had their reasons and the Democrats had their reasons. So Anita Hill had to be called because her testimony was leaked publicly, but Republicans didn't want to call the women because, I mean, it's pretty clear why they didn't. They wanted to limit damage to Thomas's nomination. Allowing multiple women would strengthen Anita Hill's testimony in the public eye. And Democrats, while wanting to investigate, had to balance public perception going after a black man at this time, and they wanted to limit the risk of overwhelming the hearing with too many witnesses. There's just no justice.
No, there is no justice.
Imagine what having these other women coming forward would do just to her testimony, but
Oh my
also to like
God.
her mental health.
Yeah. Just having strength in numbers, having anyone saying, yes, this is valid. I believe you. I'm like, God, I know like her journals are obviously your journal is so personal. But I'm like, if Brett Kavanaugh could base his whole fucking thing off his calendars,
Yeah.
couldn't they base this to be fact off of her journals?
Wow, Tess, that's such a good point.
That's so obnoxious.
But it's not about what it's about, is it?
Exactly. But of course not. Of course. But Brett Kavanaugh's calendars are just, real
Bible.
evidence. Bible, actually. Yeah.
So, Tess, the trial ends after 3 days. She immediately goes back to Oklahoma. She goes back to teaching the next day after she gets back.
Imagine the context. Which if I were teaching it, it's all I could talk about the whole day. I'd be
I
like,
mean,
guys, you won't believe these assholes.
crazy. And she, at her school where she was teaching, she was the first African American tenured at the law school. So on October 15th, 1991, the Senate holds the confirmation vote for Clarence Thomas, and he is confirmed by a 52-48 margin, which is actually like quite close.
Wait, yeah. Okay, so almost half voted don't.
Yeah, I assume all of the no, actually it wasn't. It wasn't all because I looked it up. It definitely wasn't all the Democrats that voted no.
So some Republicans did too.
Sorry guys, do your homework, look it up on like
Yeah. I'm
what
just
was that?
like, huh.
Also like I don't know. This whole thing, that's the whole point of this episode. Like how can you hear that and not be like this guy's weird and gross?
Literally, like, even for someone that you want to like grab a beer with, have a meeting with, but he's on the Supreme Court.
Which is a job that's like basically for life.
Which that's a whole nother
That's a whole
God,
other
that's
issue.
a whole nother story, isn't it?
Yeah. So she said that she didn't realize that she would have to live a new normal now. Again, she's kind of the first to do what she did. People would confront her on the streets and call her a liar. State politicians who were Republicans tried to get her school to fire her, even though she was tenured. And then once they said no, they went after the dean of the school.
Oh my God, get a life.
Get a
Get a
life.
life.
Shouldn't you be doing stuff that's like helping your state? So
No.
she continued to receive death threats and threats of sexual violence. Her friends and family did as well. She doesn't write a book immediately. Later on, she does in her life because she has done incredible things. But of course, people were like, you're just doing this for fame and clout, which again, you guys, when has ever a victim had fame in a positive way?
Literally.
Like SNL was making jokes about her. Like we see with every single person that's come forward, their name is now a joke.
Monica Lewinsky was in hiding for 25 years and just now is an executive producer of shows and has a podcast. Like, but she couldn't do anything for like 2 decades.
That is what happens to victims. And like, thank God for people like Anita Hill and Monica Lewinsky and Dr. Ford that have the bravery to protect other women by coming forward.
God, but yeah, and it's just still so scary. It's also like such a financial risk of paying for lawyers and it's everything. It's like, it's so much fear.
Well, that's what so many people think. It's like a financial gain if you come forward. And it's like, what?
Literally, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people write books to make up for the
Yeah.
lawyer's fee. Like you were spending close to $1 million if you were like in a high case like this.
I can't imagine. But speaking of books, she doesn't write a book right away, but this other guy does, David Brock. 2 years after the hearings, this asshole wrote a book called The Real Anita Hill, which was strongly pro Clarence Thomas and anti Anita Hill. He set out to discredit Anita Hill and to argue that her allegations of sexual harassment were politically motivated. Brock portrayed Anita Hill as, quote, a little bit nutty and a little bit slutty.
I would love that to be my legacy. Honestly, like
New Housewives
iconic.
tagline?
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
Oh my God. Oh wow. It's giving our episode last week of Rosalind Franklin of the guy writing the book saying that she was just an ugly spinster.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
who has the time to write a book like this?
He accused her of being emotionally unstable, obsessed with Clarence Thomas. A lot of people also thought that she had such a huge crush on him, that she was delusional.
Yeah, because he's really hot and desirable. Totally.
Oh my God. So this book comes out. And he said that all of it was a smear campaign by the liberals.
It always is, Claire.
Yeah. It's always just the liberals.
Terrible. Terrible people.
Tess, it sells so many copies. And so then people just have this perception of her. Like, we can laugh because it's like fucking crazy and like, it's fucking crazy. But when people read this in the 90s, they're like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is the real Anita Hill.
And she doesn't have like agency over her. Oh, like she's not on social media.
No, exactly. Exactly. So in the late 1990s, this author, David Brock, publicly recanted much of what he had wrote in The Real Anita Hill. He admitted that the book was a political hit job, saying he'd been working with a conservative media ecosystem eager to destroy Hill's credibility. He later apologized personally to Anita Hill for the damage his book caused, but the damage was done.
Yeah, honey, I would not take that apology at that point.
No, absolutely not.
I feel like I'm
But
getting itchy.
I know, sorry. But
I
yeah,
feel like I'm
he's
getting
like,
a rash.
was working with conservatives on that to take her down. So, but also it's like, you guys, it's already done. Like, stop.
That's what I was gonna say. Who? He's already on the court.
What is the point?
What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to?
Oof, you're so angry.
It's so losery.
It is. Like, give it up.
Yo.
So, Tess, let's talk about what Clarence Thomas has been up to on the Supreme Court. So, Clarence Thomas has consistently opposed gay marriage throughout his time on the Supreme Court.
Do you remember that?
Clarence Thomas is a longstanding opponent of Roe v. Wade. He is a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, believing it protects individuals' right to own firearms. He is a big gun supporter. He has a narrow interpretation of voting rights acts and emphasizes states' authorities over elections. I'm like, how is this guy ever the head of the EEOC? It's actually crazy.
No, but truly though, I'm like, who gave him that job? We need to do an episode of that person because, like, what is your trauma?
Guarantee you is another man having beers with him, being like, have you seen that porn Long Dong Silver?
Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tess, in October 2010, Clarence Thomas's wife, Virginia, a conservative activist, left a voicemail at Anita Hill's office asking that Anita Hill apologize for her 1991 testimony. So, Anita Hill gets this voicemail, and at first she thought it was a prank, but no, they do some investigation, and it really was his wife. And so then Anita Hill told the media, I testified truthfully about my experience, and I stand by that testimony. Virginia Thomas responded that the call had been intended as an olive branch.
Who's this woman that married him? Is truly my like, wow, I'm sure she was like, I need to feel better about myself and my choice to marry this monster, and I need this woman to admit that it was all a lie.
That's exactly what it
And
is.
that's on you, babe. You are the one to decide to spend your life with this gross man. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Also, like her hearing about that he is just stepping out all over their marriage.
Yep.
So I found this from an article that I thought was really interesting. Even as brave women continue to come forward, some recalling Anita Hill's lead, one thing remains abundantly clear. Clarence Thomas still sits on the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump, who has boasted that his star status allows him to go up to women and grab them by the pussy without their consent, occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah. It's like, it shows that this, like, these like, these singular decisions that we make of like appointing a man like this, it is literally a domino effect for Trump being president now for a fucking second term, for what happens to Dr. Christine Ford. Like, it literally is so important to like take these things seriously.
Of course, like we have sexual predators on our Supreme Court
Oh my God.
who are making decisions about our bodies.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he's so against Roe v. Wade. I'm sure that's just a passionate thing for him.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Anita Hill's legacy because that's much more
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Tess, this is so fascinating. In the year after Anita Hill's testimony, complaints to the EEOC about sexual harassment went up 73%.
My God, all these women are like, finally, like
Yes.
explosion. Yeah.
I think women watched it. Well, they did. So some of the working women's groups, like 9 to 5, reported that their phone lines rang off the hook with women saying, you mean this is illegal? You mean I can do something about this? Anita Hill did that. Like her bravery did that.
Wow.
So in 1992, a record number of women ran for and were elected to Congress, becoming known as the Anita Hill class. 28 new female members were voted into Congress, an unprecedented number, leading the press to call it the Year of the Women.
Wow.
I have the chills.
Same.
So women saw this and they were like, oh my God, we have got to get more women into politics. And they
Uh,
did.
mm.
So Anita Hill continued to engage and lead in advocacy work, teaching gender, race, and law at Brandeis University, and for the past years, chairing the Hollywood Commission, which fights harassment in the entertainment industry.
Wow. Well, God, yeah.
She
Need that there. Really need some of that.
really needs some of that. She has written many books, including Believing, Our 30-Year Journey to End Gender Violence, about the many forms of gender violence that continue to afflict American workplaces, schools, and homes. It's also like a thing like, yeah, she's writing books about like ending gender violence, like not
Yeah,
trying to capitalize off of herself.
exactly. She's like, let me help other women.
Oh, she has dedicated her life to this now.
Oh,
She remained a symbol of courage during the Me Too movement. Many people drew parallels between her experience and later testimonies of women speaking out about harassment. Decades later, I thought this phrase was so interesting. Decades later, history rhymed when Christine Ford faced the same panel with allegations of sexual assault against the Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh in 2018. So I have a pretty long quote from Anita Hill, but I do think it's important. So she said, I think it's not just me personally that has doubts about the court now. The fact is that we have two sitting Supreme Court justices who have gone through hearings about sexual misconduct. One sexual assault allegation against Justice Kavanaugh, and then there was the Clarence Thomas hearings, which were focused on his behavior, which I would describe as sexual harassment. The question about integrity of the court isn't just about me and Christine Ford. It's about the American public's confidence in the court. I think it's been diminished for a lot of people, including myself and including Christy Ford, but I don't want to speak for her because I think for the public, there's been some reduction in belief in the integrity of our court because they don't necessarily now trust the way that people get placed on the Supreme Court. The court really is only as strong as all the people who are sitting on it. So having two sitting justices whose integrity has been called into question is a blow to the court and the entire judicial system in this country.
God, well said. It's a fucking joke now.
It is a joke.
It's a joke. It is a joke when two people that sit on it are going to act like this.
How are women supposed to just like exist in this country feeling safe knowing that those two men are sitting on the highest court in the land?
Oh my God. Ugh.
And again, like you guys, it's not like surely it can't be that hard to find a judge who has not behaved this way.
You'd hope so.
You'd
And
hope
yes, there
so.
are men out there, and there are there are men that aren't going to do this. And Brett Kavanaugh did this to Christine, and he was like, what, 20 years old?
Yeah.
Like, that is, you are a monster. That is deeply embedded in you. Like, that is your character.
The
Yeah.
excuses we give men too, because if a
He's
20-year-old
drunk.
woman were gonna do anything, like, then she needs to be held to the fire.
Exactly. They would like 5150s.
Yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
truly. But yeah, he was just drunk. He was just frat bro doing his
There
thing.
It's unacceptable with anyone, but there has to be a higher standard for the Supreme Court and the President of the United States.
Of course.
Well, speaking of the President of the United States, let's talk about Joe Biden and his relationship with Anita Hill now. So on April 25th, 2019, the presidential campaign team for Joe Biden of the 2020 presidential election disclosed that he had called Hill to express, quote, his regret for what she had endured in his role as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Anita said that this call from Biden left her feeling deeply unsatisfied. On June 13th, 2019, Hill clarified that she did not consider Biden's actions disqualifying and would be open to voting for him.
It's giving like, I'm sorry you felt that way.
Totally. Totally. I'm not sorry for what I did, but I'm sorry
Yeah,
that
I
it made you
regret
feel that
what
way.
you had to endure. More like I regret how I acted and made you feel.
Tess, that's such a good point because then if he says that, then people are like, well, he's a gross guy. And like,
No, yeah, you can't like politicians like never apologize, but just be like, I really deeply regret the situation.
Tess, that's such a good point. And it like sucks for her that she has to be like, yeah, I
Like,
guess I'll
I'll
still
vote for
vote for
him.
him because it's Trump who's also a
Well,
sexual predator.
that's why this is literally such a lesson of like, it is really the lesser of two evils with the current administration. Like, I hope that we move one day where we are even, which like we are seeing in certain ways
Yeah.
of like away from, just the parties, the conservative Democrats and the Republicans. Like, it's not working.
In 2020, Joe Biden said, oh, wow. In 2020, Joe Biden said that she did not get a fair hearing. She did not get treated well, and that is my responsibility.
Oh, okay. Well, we like a little bit of,
Okay.
hey, we'll take it. We'll
We'll
take
take
it.
it. So a year later, thank God. And I will leave you with a quote from Anita Hill. I must never, ever give up my voice, and I will not.
Mm,
And that is the Anita Hill hearing.
justice for you, Anita. It's so important that like everyone just listened to this episode and heard this story. Like, and it is history that's repeated itself. But it's fascinating that this is like one of the first times we really experienced it, like in this country so publicly.
I know. It's just like these are the kinds of things that's like I don't remember if I learned that in school or not. And it's like we should be learning this in school. There is like in high school, especially with these like this is the time that boys could start doing this kind of behavior.
My God, yeah, we weren't learning anything about this. Like, and there's not even discussions, like when you're learning about these things in history of like the psychology of like gender dynamics, really.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I
it's
feel,
important.
yeah,
Of
oh my God, it's
course.
so important. Wow, that was such a good episode. Well done,
Justice for
Dan.
Anita. We'll have our sources in the show notes because there's a documentary that I watched on her from 2014, I think. And then Kerry Washington played her in a movie called, oh, fuck, I'm forgetting what it's called now.
I didn't know she played her.
She did. Greg Kinnear played Joe Biden, and his voice was spot on. It's crazy.
Did you watch it?
No, I haven't got a chance to watch it, you guys, but I will definitely be watching it.
Wow, I wanna watch it too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was so good. I'm so glad that it was a, HBO film Confirmation.
Confirmation. That's right. That's what it's called.
Oh, that would just I'm like, "I need a moment,
I
but I do
know.
wanna watch it, but I need to calm the
Same.
hell down."
Anita, you are such a hero and an icon. Like, as a woman, I am just idolize her so much.
Uh, I do as well. It really is so, yeah, inspiring just to also have something that happened to you that terribly on a public scale and, like, just use your platform then to help other women.
Exactly. Like, that's
Oh,
what she's dedicated her life to. Also, former Ram guest Jessica Bennett interviewed her for the New York Times,
iconic.
which
Yeah,
was one of my
listen
sources.
to our episode with her about
History of the MILF.
History of the MILF. What a niche fun episode that was.
Truly, like, women can do it all.
And look through our catalog of our almost 200 episodes, and that will just prove that point.
It's so true. So, if you guys learned anything from this episode, please share it with people around you or on your socials and tag us at Right Answers Mostly. You can find us there across all platforms. And if you want even more Bram, you can join our premium channel for 3 bonus episodes a month. We have a catalog of 100 episodes. So, there's just so much of us everywhere.
Literally. Not enough though, right? You always want more.
That's right. Rammies, we love you.
We love you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.